What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Diamond Boss. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to have a very big discussion. We're going to be talking about the upcoming selection pack for the month of May. Now, if you guys might have noticed, if you go on Master Duel right now, the two packs that are currently out, which are expiring soon, is going to be Strong Will and Passage of the Sun. They are rumored to be expiring on May 10th, so that is the rumored time when the pack is going to be released. Now, normally Konami likes to surprise us a bit, where they announce it a bit early. So we just have to see how, Konami plays around that. But yeah, we wait for the official confirmation, but we have got some official leaks, which obviously is not confirmed. So please take this video with a grain of salt, as these cards may or may not come in the next pack. As we do know in the past, some cards which were leaked have not come yet. So I'll just be giving my overall thoughts on the packs, basically what's going to be coming, and how I feel about the upcoming format when these cards do get released. So if you are enjoying this type of video, make sure to leave a like and comment and subscribe. And yeah, we have more quality content on the way. I'm quite excited for the next pack. I think it will be a bit of fresh air, with the meta right now. It's going to be quite interesting with these cards coming in. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the video. Let's hop onto masterduelmeta.com. Alright, so we're currently on masterduelmeta.com. Shout out to Icejade and his team for setting up this awesome website. I think it's amazing, helping bring a nice community together and obviously getting closer to you guys. So shout out to them. So let's talk about currently where the meta is at right now. As you can see, this is the current tier list. As you can see, I'll make it quite visible on the screen. So currently the best deck in the game is Tearlament. There's no brainer, right? It's very consistent, although it did power crept a little bit. It's definitely not tier 0 as people thought it was going to be. Maybe initially when it came out, everyone was playing it, but then I think now the hype has kind of died out because it's not really at full power than it was in the OCG and TCG. So I think Konami learned from those formats to not really make the deck too overpowered, because imagine having the field spell at 3, it would just be ridiculous, and having some of those cards at 3. So I think it kind of hurt the deck a little bit to not make it tier 0, and also we're in a best of 1, so people are kind of having a counter for it because they're having cards in their deck preparing specifically for Tearlament. So that's kind of why it's currently tier 1 but not actually tier 0. It was tier 0 at one point, but I think based on the tournaments and how people have been playing, because this is based on tournament stats, these obviously are a representative of the pie in terms of these are the best performing decks. So Tearlament, I'm not surprised. I mean, majority's playing it, but it's not really tier 0 because, like I said, it's not something that people are oh, it's Tearlament. Yes, it is annoying, but there are counters to it. So people are decking it in their main, so it shouldn't be an issue there with that. Flonderies is one of those decks that counter Tearlament, and I'm not surprised it's tier 2 because it really doesn't rely on special summoning at all, and it can, if you know what you're doing, Flonderies can destroy you instantly, and especially with Dimensional Shifter and Dimension Fissure, those guys basically rely on banishing. Most decks cripple when it comes to that. Flonderies does not, so all their cards banish when they leave the field. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. So Flonderies is a pretty good deck, I would say, in this format right now. Then tier 3, you can see we have Sprites. Sprites has been a good deck. There's been a lot of variants, so even then also Sprite also was supposed to be also like a tier 0, but again, because they made some pre-hits, it kind of reduced the deck a little bit in terms of consistency. But again, there have been other variants which help the deck just to make it even more powerful. So currently I think the best variant now is Melfi Sprite, because it can synchro into Herald of Arc Light, and it can also summon Mannequin Cat, which can summon End of Anubis and all that stuff just to counter Tearlament. But yeah, it's nice. Then we also have Exorcister, which people initially, when they saw this deck, it was like, okay, it's kind of okay a few months ago, but I think now people are going to appreciate it even more because it actually is a direct counter to them, because Tearlament manipulates the graveyard. So Exorcister basically saying, hey, I'm here, if you like your graveyard, you're gonna have a problem. So Exorcister is a nice deck. Branded Despia. Branded Despia is I think for a long time it's just been one of the better decks in the game. I mean, it's obviously power crept a little bit because I mean it does lose to things like Ash and a few things, but I mean the deck still plays well. I mean, the main thing now, Branded is also using Tilament as an engine to summon out most of their monsters, so it kind of makes the deck a little bit more consistent. But Branded always going to be good. Then at Emancipator, I mean, recently got the Venusaur support, so they kind of also got a bit of a boost because they are Earth. So the engine is kind of crept up a little bit. Even with Rock Dragon being at 1, it still doesn't hurt the deck too much. So that's kind of where the meta is right now in terms of how the best decks are performing. And I think these are kind of the things you can relate to when we're talking about, okay, is a deck going to be good? Can it compete with the best decks? Because currently now these are the best decks that are competing in tournaments. Now, obviously these are tournament topping decks, but it doesn't mean that your other deck is not performing. Yes, it can definitely reach Diamond or Platinum or whatever, but ideally we're looking at the best well-rounded decks, more consistent. These are probably the best decks right now at this time. Now, of course, at the time of recording this video, this is the current tier list. It definitely will change. The percentages might be different by the time you watch it, but this is just my perspective on it. So you can let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Are you okay with this current format? Is it healthy for you? Are you excited for the next format coming up? Bit of fresh air, but will some decks even come into this tier list? Well, we can use it as a baseline going forward. So let's talk about the leaks. All right, so these are the upcoming cards which are leaked as per the next selection pack. This was obviously leaked by Decade, but remember, these are all unconfirmed, so some cards in here may or may not be in the next pack, but again, most of the time the leaks have not been wrong, so we just have to wait on the announcement by Konami. But basically, it looks like a clean 40 cards. There's a lot of cards in here. I was going to go through it one by one, but I think it won't be beneficial for you guys because obviously it is a lot of cards. So I'll try and simplify it by breaking it up into simple portions. So what I'll do is I'll actually go through certain cards that are grouped together, and there'll be obviously generic ones which I probably won't talk about, but I think the ones that'll be most impactful in the game, since now we are talking about how it compare with the current tier list right now and basically the meta. So let's go into that. So this is basically the main pack that's coming, and we also have a structure deck, and the structure deck we'll talk about right now. All right, the structure deck. So there is a leak that the structure deck is going to be Blackwings. Now this is interesting because Blackwings actually was a cover set for a set in the TCG called Darkwing Blast, and the cover card there was Blackwing Assault Dragon. It's the upgraded form of Blackwing Dragon. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice card. It's a pretty cool concept of a card. I mean, it basically still uses the black feather counters as usual, but now instead of reducing its attack, it's gonna actually burn your opponent for 700. And it's not like there's a cap. Every time your opponent activates a monster effect, you place a feather counter on this card, and basically you inflict 700 damage to them immediately. So if they activate 4 monster effects at a minimum, it basically can board wipe the entire field. So if the opponent keeps activating effects, it's almost like a masquerade but for Blackwing. So it's kind of insane, and it's actually not difficult to summon as well. I'm sure you've seen there's a lot of combos that you can make to get Blackwing Assault Dragon. Either interpret out normally, or you can use its special summon effect. So it's kind of unique there. Then we also have some new cards that support it. So we got Berea Storm, the Wicked Wind, which is a synchro tuner. Send a Blackwing from death to grave, which is pretty nice. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. Then we also have Chinook, we have Vata, we have Shanga, the Warning Moon. I believe this is a OCG exclusive, which TCG does not have yet, so this card is actually quite insane. It basically says if a monster with 2,000 more attacks on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, and it's kind of insane, right? And if this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card. It's quick effect, target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Pretty insane, right? And it's a once per duel effect, that one. So it's pretty insane. So the special summon from hand effect is quite nice. And that one's not once per duel, but the destroying a card in the field, that is once per duel. It's kind of insane, right? Now I put Steam the Cloak here because, as you can see, currently in the TCG and OCG, it's kind of been unrestricted, because the only reason why this was banned was because of Crystron Hulky Firebrax. Now obviously Crystron Hulky Firebrax is no longer in the game because it's banned, because it's just beyond broken. So this basically would summon tokens infinitely, and it would summon itself, right? Although it's a once per duel, right? The token, the fact they can make tokens and getting to Crystron Hulky Firebrax was insane. So I'm only surprised if they actually, you know, unban this card at some point. But even if it doesn't come in the structure deck, I think in the future it would definitely be great to assist the deck. Even at one is going to be fine. Then we have Shamal the Sandstorm. It's a nice card. It actually can discard itself to place a Black Feather Whirlwind, which is the new continuous spell, which is insane. And yeah, if a monster if a Blackwing Dragon or a Blackwing Synchro monster is special to your field, while this card's in your graveyard, can actually recover a Blackwing monster that was used. So it's pretty insane there. But obviously we take 700 damage, just like Zephyros, where you take 400 damage when it returns its cards to the hand. So it's kind of insane there. Then we have the new normal summon, which is Sudri, the Phantom Glimmer. This one is insane. It can add a card that mentions Blackwing Dragon from your deck to your hand, except itself. And it can also generate a token, right, which is a tuner as well. So it's kind of insane. So we have now new ways to kind of, you know, play Blackwings, because usually your best normal summon, you know, would have been Simoon. Simoon will banish a Blackwing, place Black Whirlwind onto the field, and you can basically start from your place from there. But now, instead of normal summoning just a normal Blackwing, now we actually will normal summon this. And this can actually search, because when you normal summon Simoon, it can search your Blackwing is going to search for this card, and then you normal summon it, then you have another search. So it's kind of insane. Then we also have a new trap card, which can basically synchro summon on your opponent's turn, basically by shuffling monsters in your graveyard to your deck or extra deck, one tuner, non-tuner, which is insane. So it's kind of nice. Then we also have a new counter trap. When a spell trap card activated, we can remove a black feather counter from your field, which will probably be true, because if you have an assault dragon, having a feather counter on the field is going to be pretty easy, because they will definitely activate a monster effect. Then definitely it will be viable. We can negate and we can destroy it. And then if we control a Blackwing Dragon, we can set the card from your grave. So it's kind of insane, but obviously penetrating this field, perfectly fine. Just a nice way to, you know, boost the deck. I'm not sure if people are going to be playing it, but again, we have to see what the new structure is going to have, because normally the structure gates have good reprints. So if I had to guess what the reprint's going to be, I would definitely expect Black Whirlwind to be there, and probably Simoon. If Simoon is there, I think that would be great, because it will open up people playing Blackwings again, because Blackwings has always been great over the last few years, and especially when this set came out, people were playing Blackwings, and it was actually quite competitive, because people were playing it with Kali Yuga Lock, with the Raid Raptors, you know, the Phantom Knight package. So there's many ways to play Blackwings competitively. But if you just like pure Blackwings, because it's an anime deck, it's nice, it's insane, I like it. I used to play back in Duel Links, and it was quite insane even then as well. It was also, I think, tier 1 as well. So Blackwings and Master Duel got a nice boost. I'm excited for this new structure deck. So hopefully, you know, we can you know, see what happens on this. But these are kind of the cards that are new. Hopefully we'll get the reprints, which will be insane. And yeah, the deck is actually not that expensive. So if you just have 1500 gems and you're looking to try Blackwings, I mean, definitely this is a good start just to get back into it. So that is the structure deck. Let's go on to the actual pack. So here we have the first leak, which is for hire. So there's only 2 cards here. So we have Rex, the Fright for hire, which is an Earth Dinosaur. And we have Donna, Dagger for hire, which is a Beast Warrior, which requires 2 monsters with different types. So this is actually quite nice, because it's generic and it's very powerful, as it can target itself for its effect. Its effect is you target a monster, which is a fur hire you control, and one monster your opponent controls destroy. So it's just a free removal if you want to get rid of a trouble monster and they have a disruption. So it's fairly easy if you don't use your normal summon and you have 2 monsters with different types. And this is quite easy if you're playing dangers or you have free special summons. This is quite easy to make, and then the different types. The for higher archetype themselves have so many different types, so it kind of synergizes quite well. And also it's an earth monster, so you can be using some earth decks as well. Very generic as well, which is quite nice. So there's this crazy combo with this if you play for hires as an engine. I think DK explained it in his video, so you can check out that video on that leak. But for hire, there's only 2 cards, but I think some people will be playing this. So if you see this dagger for hire combo, which is a little about drawing cards, I think that's kind of insane. But yeah, there's only 2 cards. But the other for hire deck is also in the game. It's also pretty good, fairly standard. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about for hire. I mean, really nothing much. Only 2 cards coming in. So I assume the rarities, probably this one might be at least SR at least. Maybe this one a rare, I don't know. We have to see on that, but good for the for hire support. Can't see any complaints about that one. So let's talk about now the Synchron support. Alright, so this is the leak for the Synchron support. And we have 4 new main deck cards, and we have a new extra deck card. So Stardust Worm, it's a pretty good card. Basically, if this card's in your hand or grave, and you control a level 8 or higher dragon synchro monster, you can special summon this card by banishing when it's in the field. Okay, cool. And you can tribute this card, special 2 level 1 light dragon monsters from your hand. So it basically helps the support to get to your bigger Stardust monsters, because normally you have the majestic dragon that will summon. And then obviously you need, I think it's a light dragon tuner, so that's a good target for that. And yeah, it's obviously you can't activate the effects, but I think you'll use them just for synchro summoning. So it's a good support. We just have to see how it plays in the actual Synchron deck. But again, Synchron has so much support. I think it's just, you know, kind of insane. But even this card here, Assault Synchron, this is actually could be a pretty breakable, you know, actually a pretty good card. So what does Assault Synchron do? It basically, during the main phase, free special summon, takes 700 damage. Okay, cool. But if it's summoned this way, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except synchro monsters, while we control this monster. So obviously if you don't have this monster on the field, you can summon anything else. But when you're this on the field, you cannot summon anything except for synchros, which is fine. Then if a face-up dragon synchro monster you control is tributed for or banished, you can banish this card from your grave, target one of those banished monsters, and special summon it. So it's a pretty much, if you play dragon synchro monsters, this card is pretty good. You know, it doesn't lock you out of any specific type. It just says synchro monsters. And obviously if you're playing a dragon synchro deck, I mean, this is a really good boost, so it can actually recover. So if it's tributed or banished, you can just banish it from the grave and then target it, special summon it back. So it's kind of nice there. Then we have On Your Mark, Get Set, Duel. When it's activated and you control no other cards, you can add a Synchron monster from deck to your hand. So again, another way to get to your junk Synchron. In addition to tuning, Synchro Overtake, you know, there's a lot of ways to search your junk Synchron, which is kind of insane. But I don't know if it will be viable, because it does, you know, get prone to Ash. But then again, you can maybe play around Ash or around this, so it's kind of nice. And also, it can also be a part of group, because you can, once per turn during a standby phase, place a signal counter on this card and removes 2 signal counters from this field and send it up to your field face-up card to the graveyard, draw 2. So it's pretty nice. I mean, if you have 2 of this, 3 of this, I mean, it's going to be okay, but will it be consistent? I'm not sure. Maybe the Synchron players can help in the comments. Are you going to be playing this card? Because if you have so many ways to get your junk Synchron. If you get junk Synchron and you have any level 2 or lower monster, you pretty much have full combo. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. Then Final Cross is just a battle quick play spell. I don't think people are going to be playing it as much, and it does target specific monsters that list a warrior, Synchron, and or Stardust in its name. So again, in addition to all the support that they already have, I mean, it's going to be viable. I mean, we have to just see about that, you know. But I think what people are going to be playing is the new Synchro monster, which is a level 8 generic 1 tuner non-tuner to dragon, so it synergies nicely with Assault Synchron. And basically this is XL Synchro Stardust Dragon, so People are wondering, where does this artwork come from? This artwork actually comes from the anime when Yusei actually Excel synchroned for the first time with Formula Synchron and Stardust Dragon to form Shooting Star. So this is pretty much where the artwork comes from, which is pretty cool. I think it's quite unique. And this, I think most decks, if you can make a level 8, this is probably a go-to because it has quite unique effects here. So I've mentioned here in my notes that it's a nice boost because it's a generic level 8 and it can have insane plays depending on how you use it. So when it's called a Synchro Summon, you can special summon one level 2 or lower tuner from your graveyard, so that's nice. And also during the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon one Stardust Dragon from your extra deck that is treated as a Synchro Summon. So Stardust Dragon, normally when it activates its effect, would come back during the end phase, right? So because it's treated as a Synchro Summon, it will not just be on the field also. If it, let's say, used to be preventing a destruction on the field, it will come back in the end phase because it is treated as a Synchro Summon. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon one Synchro monster using monsters you control as material. So it doesn't say you need to use Stardust Dragon as part of the materials. It just says Synchro Summon one monster. So when you activate this effect, it basically is going to tell you, okay, that means you can synchro into a level 10 or higher. Or you can even just synchro into a level 8 or lower. It doesn't lock you into any level. It just opens up the floor, because once you have Stardust Dragon on the field, you can either go to level 10 or you can go to maybe a level 10 or lower, depending on what you have on the field. And they say this turn, the monsters synchro summoned by this effect are unaffected by your opponent's activated effect. So remember, Stardust Dragon is a Synchro Summon, so that's number 1. Then number 2, the second monster you're going to summon is also going to be unaffected. So most of the time, people are making Baron de Fleur on the opponent's turn, and Baron de Fleur becomes unaffected, which is insane. And the nice thing is, you can revive it on the next turn. So if you use Baron de Fleur's effect, you can actually use the effect on the next turn standby phase, activate Baron de Fleur's effect, revive XL Stardust Dragon, and start the whole play again. The only downside is you obviously you need to have multiple Stardust Dragons for it to work, but I think it will just be a one setup where you'll just do it once and then you'll have it recurring every time again. But it's a pretty nice card to have. It really boosts the synchro strategy, and I think we need to kind of see how this card is going to work in other, non-synchron support, I would say, because any synchro deck basically will play this if they understand how it works. So I think it really requires someone how to use it effectively. Then it will either be an addition or just a support, but it will require 2 slots because you need XL Synchro Stardust Dragon and the original Stardust Dragon in your extra deck. So you already have 2 out of your 15. So if you're not really worried about extra deck slots, then definitely these are the cards you can run for you on that front. So that is the Synchron support. Let's talk about the Naturia support. All right, so this is the Naturia support. So I've put some cards which are already in the game, but just to emphasize that Naturia is a very underrated deck because most of the monsters that are in their archetype are not hard ones per turn, except for the newer support cards. So what are the new support cards? We have the Naturia Mole Cricket, where during the main phase you can tribute the card, special summon 1 Naturia monster from your deck, or 2 if your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack on the field. So normally you would wait for your opponent to do something, because your monsters are usually low, right, in attack. So you can summon 2 Naturia monsters, and then their effects are going to activate. So it doesn't lock you into what monsters you summon. You can summon any Naturia monster. So normally you would summon Camilla or Camellia and summon Sunflower, normally, right? Now what does Camellia do? Camellia is the new card. On normal or special summon, she can send a Naturia card from deck to grave. Now normally you would send a monster, but you actually send the Sacred Tree. Sacred Tree says if this card sent to the graveyard, add 1 Naturia card from deck to your hand, and that is not once per turn. The other effects you'll see: summoning an insect, tributing an insect, summoning a plant, tributing a plant, summoning an insect. Not really relevant. It's just useful as graveyard effect. And if you're using shufflers like these Shizu cards, you can basically every turn recur this card if you know what you're doing, and it's kind of insane. So that is not new support, but this is pretty much the card you'll be sending with Camellia. And it also has another effect. If you attribute a monster to activate a Naturia monster's monster effect, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard instead. Though it's a once per turn though. So let's say, for example, you have Sunflower, who's a monster effect negate, right? Instead of triggering a monster first, you would use Camellia's effect to send 2 cards to the grave, negate. Then use it again, its own effect, to tribute itself at another monster. And you will have another monster at most times. So depending on the engine that you're running, you will always have monsters to tribute, which is insane. So you have basically double monster negate. You also have double spell trap negate, because this one's another one that you can basically use off Camellia's effect, which is insane, right? Although it is a once per turn, so just be careful which one you're going to use. Then the Naturia Blessing. This card is so underrated because it basically just gives the strategy of Naturia like just wow. Like all these effects are not once per turn. So if you have multiple copies of these, you can pop off, like just go crazy, right? So you can either summon a Naturia monster from hand or grave, synchro summon using a Naturia monster, or fusion summon, including a Naturia monster. Now the fusion summoning, I mean, you don't really use it often, but the first 2 effects are insane. And it doesn't lock you into Naturia synchro monsters. You can just synchro summon into any synchro monster as long as there's a Naturia monster involved. And normally the Naturia monsters are either tuners and non-tuners. So most of the time they are tuners. These are with non-tuners, and then you have a synchro. So you can either go straight into Naturia Beast or Naturia Bunkyard, depending on what you need. Or you can go into Baron de Fleur, or you can go to Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, or whatever you want to do. And I think the engine that will really support the deck is going to be Ishizu Verniself. That's one engine you can use because it's Earth, and Runic. Now Runic has a lot of hate because obviously it runs a lot of stun and all that stuff, and it banishes your cards and stuff. But Naturia Runic actually surprisingly worked well from what I've seen on the internet. So you can check those out. The Naturia Runic replays. It actually does some tops and regionals and stuff. So if you love Runic and you want to try a different engine, Naturia is probably a good way to go. But yeah, Naturia, very good support coming up. Now I put this card here, Exterior's Fang, because someone suggested it to me. Okay, they play this in their Naturia deck, so what does this card do? It basically works like a Telemans Crime, where you can negate a spell or trap, but you must send a card from your hand to the grave. So it's not once per turn as well. And you must control a face-up Naturia monster and at least 1 card in your hand. So if you have no cards in your hand, you can't activate this. So it can be, you know, it's a bit slow because it's a trap card, but it's a counter trap. So any spell or trap, just negate straight away. So you run clear of this, you kind of sorted in a way. But yeah, I just put this here because it's a normal rarity, so it's kind of just normal there. So yeah, that's kind of my feedback on the Naturia support. I think it's pretty good to definitely shake up the metagame a little bit. And yeah, let's talk about the next one, which is Icejade. Okay, so Icejade. So we got 3 new cards added. Well, not 3, sorry, 2. We got Manifestation, and we got Icejade Gumir Adrian. So why are these cards important? Well, the spell card is an extension to your plays, right? Because it says if you control a water monster and your opponent has a monster on their field or grave, you take 1 Icejade monster from your deck, either send it to the grave or special summon it. And if a face-up Icejade monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card, except by being destroyed, so probably banished or sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard and target a card your opponent controls, banish it. Okay, so it's nice, right? But you can only use each effect of Manifestation once per turn. So you can use it on the same turn, but it's not like you only choose 1 effect, right? So this card is kind of good for extension, because normally if they negate your Icejade monster, you can just further extend, right? So it's pretty useful. And normally, if they hand trap you or disrupt you in some way, because obviously it's going to be a monster, right? Either on field or on the grave. So going first or going second is going to be quite useful. So I think 3 of this would be quite useful in the Icejade pure deck. But as a generic water support, maybe 1 or 2, you know, because it's any water monster, and you most likely be running Icejades in your deck if you do run Icejades. So it's going to be quite nice. It helps you to either start your plays or extend. So it's a pretty good card. Then we have Icejade Adrian. Now she is the upgraded form of the normal Adrian, right? So let me refresh this link, because this is the old link. Yeah. So she is an insane boss monster. Now, why do I say insane? Because she's level 10, right? She requires a water tuner and then 1 normal generic non-tuner, right? She has kind of a crazy effect, which I think most people are sleeping on. You can activate this effect, quick effect, right? Face-up monsters your opponent you control, or face-up monsters you control cannot be destroyed or banished by your opponent's card effects this turn, right? Then if you activate this effect in response to your opponent's card, and your opponent has a card or cards with that name on the field and or grave, you can banish those cards. So it pretty much is, in a way, it doesn't negate, but it just banishes. So if there's a monster effect on field activated in the grave or field, and you change this, so you can protect your monsters and also just banish that card. So Telement, banish. In the grave, you want to activate fusion, banish. If Mirage wants to banish, banish. And your monsters will not be banished by the effect of Mirage. So it's kind of insane there, right? And if this card is in your grave, and the card is banished by an opponent's card, you can special summon this card. If herself is banished, let's say for some reason, we have the Icejade field spell to recover her back to the extra deck, and you can summon her again. She's pretty insane. There is one downside though. We are still missing the level 7, which is Icejade Adrian Ron, which is the mid form before she became the upgraded form of Adrian, right? So she'll be great because she helps so much water support. Like, she's a free discard, special summon herself for a water monster, and she can create a token, just like Sword Soul, Long Young, right? Long Young can discard a worm to summon a token, right? She can do the same thing, but the downside is Long Young can summon any synchro, whereas her, when she's on the field on that token, can only summon from the extra deck except for water monsters. So it has to be a level 10 synchro, right? It's going to use her and the tuner, right? So it's kind of, a catch-22, but she's really great, and I think she'll be coming quite soon, but not right now, because like I said, she just came out in the TCG, with Cyberstorm Access. So we'll probably see it maybe in another 2 months or so. But then again, Konami could throw us a surprise and they say, okay, in the secret pack, here's Adrian Ron, because that's the only card that we have for the Icejades. So if we get that, then we get all the Icejade and Master Duel. It'll be pretty good. So it's a nice boost. And you'll see I've written there, even for the new archetype, which I'll be talking about now, which is the Ghoti. So let's talk about the new archetype. What is this archetype about? So OCG does not have this yet. So basically fish, it's just a play on the English language for some reason. So they decided to be clever and take a few words and talk about fish, basically, and just say, let's say Ghoti. So that's how we say it. Ghoti is how we say it. And what is this deck all about? Well, it's basically a synchro deck. And it's basically like Crystons, but it's fish. Now Crystons are great because they are known for synchro summoning on your opponent's turn. This deck can do the same, but the difference is it goes to the banish zone and then they come back in the next standby phase. So you're infinitely looping them. Whereas Crystons have to kind of do some sort of a setup, and they can't really loop themselves because their plays are kind of like, okay, once you set up, you synchro and then they're done. But this deck is quite different. So we have 3 tuners, right, which is Shift, Paysees, and Zep, right? They basically can synchro summon on your opponent's turn. However, Zep is the only one that does not recur itself during the standby phase. It only, if it's banished during your opponent's turn, it can special summon itself. But these two, Paysees and Shift, if they're banished the following turn, they come back in the standby phase. So it's turn 1, you set them up. Turn 2, on your opponent's turn, they come back. So most of these plays with this deck is going to be on your opponent's turn, which is insane. So if you can set up the ideal play, you have your monster that you need on field, because your main goal with this deck is pretty much to get your level 6, which is Aria on Pros, right? It's a generic level 6 fish monster, and on summon, it can banish a level 6 or lower fish monster from your deck. So it can already set up your plays for next turn, right? So you can set up your Paysees and all your Shift, and you can set up basically your plays for next turn, right? And if this card itself is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can target a fish monster in your grave, banish that target, and if you do one, add 1 fish monster with equal or lower level from deck to your hand. So it can even banish itself and basically search any of your fish. And usually you'll be searching Sinopios, because this card is actually quite crazy in this deck. Because if you have this card and maybe Zep and another fish, on your opponent's turn you can actually disrupt multiple plays, because during the main phase quick effect you can banish 2 monsters from your hand and or grave, special summon, and then if it's special summon you can target one favorite card on the field, banish it when it leaves. So you can either target itself or your opponent's monster, and then if you synchro with this card and let's say it's banished, let's say, you can banish the fish monster from your grave, add it back to your hand. So it's a recurring loop every time. So it's kind of insane, right? Then you also have its field spell, which can banish a fish from your hand or grave, add a Ghoti monster from deck to hand. And while you control a fish synchro monster, it cannot be destroyed, destroyed or banished by card effects. So it's a nice field spell that protects itself while you have a fish synchro monster. Then we have also traps, which are pretty insane, but I will make a future guide on this when the cards do come out, because it's just a new way to play water synchro in a way, so I kind of like that. And I just mentioned here on the side in my notes that there are quite a few engines that can help get you level 6, because your priority is to get the level 6. If you can get the level 6, then that will be great at a bare minimum. Anything after that will be a bonus. So there are many engines. There's Deep Sea engine, which is Deep Sea Diva, normal summoning, level 2 or lower. Then you can go into level 6, level 8, get your level 6 out, do further extension, which is great. Your Atlantean engine, which can hand loop your opponent and also can summon level 6, which is insane. The Assault Mode package, which is your Sire Reflector, your Assault Beast, your Assault Mode Activate, great engine, very reliable, and more emergency teleport. Doesn't need up your normal summon, which is quite nice. The same with Super Engine as well, with the Dust Walker, or the Dawn Walker, I think. That's also a 1 card level 6. Doesn't really take up your normal summon at all. Again, it's quite nice. So, you know, it's a very good support there. And obviously the fish engine itself, you can use a Bush Shark as a nice engine, because remember it can search a level 3, level 4, or 5. So normally a Bush Shark and Lifeless Leaf Fish, they have a good synergy there, because Leaf Fish can send a level 4 or a fish monster from deck to grave. So any fish monster, which is insane. And also put your Coelacanth Turbo, because Coelacanth is a busted card that can discard a card and summon as many fish monsters from your deck as possible, which are level 4 or lower. So there are a lot of ways to get you a level 6. Once you get your level 6, you jump into 8, and then from 8 you jump into 10. This is pretty much the boss monster of this archetype. When it's summoned, you banish everything. On your opponent's turn, you banish everything. If you summon on your turn, it doesn't do anything, but on your opponent's turn, it banishes all cards on the field. And this card can basically boost itself by 500 times the number of banished monsters. So this card will if you summon this, you're pretty much gonna win the game, because they won't be able to recover after that. And when you come back on your next turn, this card is gonna be big. And if you keep further extending your plays, it's gonna be insane, right? So yeah, this is a very good unique archetype. I kind of like this. I think it's giving me more reason to play Water Synchro again, but now with a different focus now. And I like that, you know, it's an exclusive that's coming, and they're not releasing it in pieces. They're releasing it all at once, like they did with Tilament. They released everything. So hopefully, you know, we can experience this deck. Will it be great in the best of one? I think so. I think we'll have a good chance against the meta, because normally people say, oh, banish, but banish is actually a good thing for this deck, because if it banishes, it comes back, you know. For example, Xe, if a fish monster is banished, this special summons itself from the hand, and it can recover your Ghoti traps that are banished only in your grave. So it's kind of, there's a lot of recursion in this deck, so you're never really losing out if you're getting banished. Obviously, if all your monsters are in your grave, then, you know, it's kind of useless. But this card, this deck basically thrives off, you know, banishing. So Exorcister, no, doesn't really do anything, because they'll just keep coming back, unless you use Impermanence or something like that to negate this Excel Synchros. But basically they can do anything. D-Shifter, they can plan the D-Shifter, they can plan the D-Fissure. So this deck is quite nice. I really do like it. Yeah, that's all my thoughts on the Ghoti. I think when the actual cards come out, I'll do a proper deck profile. You know, the cards you can run. I'll explain all the engines, and yeah, really nice. Let's talk about the other water support that's also coming to the pack, if it is going to come out. All right, so this is the other leak, which is the other water support. So we have 4 cards. We have Minaruka, we have Inferno Queen Salmon, and we have Moray of Avarice, and we have a new Link 4, which is World Sea Dragon Zealantis. So this monster here is insane, right? So we'll talk about all the cards according to my notes. So let's talk about the spell card first, Moray of Avarice. So it's similar to, you know, Moray of Greed. Okay, so Moray of Greed, how does it work? So Moray of Greed is a rare, right? It's a spell card. It's shuffling 2 water monsters in your hand into the deck and drawing 3, and it's all once per turn. So you're kind of going, you know, you're taking 2 cards away, adding 3, so you're going +1, right? Because you're getting additional card in addition to what you shuffle, and it's all once per turn, so it's kind of cool. So this card is different because it says banish 1 face-up fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster you control, draw 2, right? So the downside is you can only ever activate 1 of them, and also you'll be going net in card advantage, because remember, you are gonna have to give up a monster which you probably summoned, which potentially could be your normal summon. Normal summon, you have to activate this card, banish it, so you have 2 cards you're giving up, and you're drawing 2, so you're going to be net even, so you're going to be break even basically. So there's no real benefit unless it's a free special summon and you can activate this card, then that would be great. But if you just use 2 cards to draw 2, you're going net in card advantage, so it's really useful. There's not once per turn, it's a hard once per turn, so it's not really as beneficial compared to Moray of Greed. So that will just give you some options there. You can decide on that, right? Then Minaruka, it's a level 4, right? It's a great extender for any word deck, because when a mortal monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and also it can banish 1 face-up fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster you control, including itself, and target 1 crystal card on the field, negates effect until the end of your opponent's turn. So this is actually nice because it can banish itself, and also can further your plays when needed. So it's a great extender for any water deck, but the downside is it can be chain blocked if your opponent has a response to the monster effect that's been activated on the chain. So for example, Deep Sea Diva on normal summon will summon a sea serpent from the deck, right? If your opponent has an Ash or an Impermanence or something to respond to that, then Minaruka cannot chain block, unfortunately, the Deep Sea Diva, for example. If they have nothing, then it will only resolve in the next chain to summon itself. So that's the only downside, but otherwise it's nothing too much of an issue. So yeah, if you activate multiple water monster effects and you activate this, it's nice. Free extension, right? Level 4, which is good for synchro, good for exceed, and good for even link climbing if you do that, which is nice. All right. Then we have Zelantis. So Zelantis is a powerful link 4 that requires at least one effect monster, which basically, if you have a link 4 on field, you can basically just replace it because it a one card link 4. So all the link 4s currently in the game, you can basically you can link someone with that card. Insane. You can also use tokens as well. So if you have a link 2 and you have let's say two tokens that are normal, you can also use that as well to link summon this card, which is great. So it's used in link climbing strategies, of course, but I think for me, where I'll be using this card mainly is in Marincess, because Marincess actually has a nice interaction because if you know Marincess, the strategy how it works, it locks them out when you activate certain cards. For example, if you use Blue Slug, if you use Coron Enemy, or if you use Marincess Dive, they lock you out for summoning first turn playing water monsters, right? So if you are waterlocked and you activate Zelantis' effect, right? Zelantis' effect says that during the main phase, you can banish all monsters on the field, then special summon as many monsters as possible that were banished by this effect to the owner's fields, face up or face down. So you can rearrange the field based on what you like. But the problem is, you, the person that's playing on that has a turn priority, you are the one summoning the monsters back, not your opponent. So if they're not playing water monsters, then basically they cannot get those monsters back. They're just banished, they're just gone. They're not going to activate, which is insane, right? So it's a quick board wipe going second. So Marincess has a nice strategy now going second. Instead of now building basically a tower, we now have an option to go into Zelantis to break their board. But the downside is with Zelantis is, in Marincess specifically, you need a lot of extenders to make it work, because you have to kind of play around a lot of disruptions, hand traps, all that stuff. So if you have a lot of extenders and you can make Zelantis, it would be a great strategy. So stay tuned for that, because I will have a lot of combo lines that you can go through with Zelantis, especially with the new support coming out. So I will update my Marincess deck profile for the current meta, and I'll show you how to use Zelantis in a situation where you can lock yourself into water, which will always happen normally, and then you can basically board wipe your opponent and then potentially go for a game, because it does have high potential to OTK if you know how to play the combo lines. So that's kind of important there. Then we have Infernal Queen Salmon. So it's a fish, level 5. So on normal or special summon, you can special summon one normal fish monster from your hand, deck, or grave. So it's nice for, again, rank 5 exceed. So it's pretty good support there as well. And if it leaves the field by opponent's card, it can special summon any number of Vows Salmon tokens, level 1. Insane, right? Any number. So it can be used for link summoning, or it can just be for further plays. Doesn't lock you out of anything. And yeah, it's 2400 attack. It's kind of nice. And yeah, it's a great extent, just like Minaruka, but obviously for normal fish monsters. So if you have good normal fish, if you are playing fish, this is a good card. And again, it's good for rank 5 exceed plays, so I don't see anything wrong with this card. But we just have to see how it works, especially in sharks. I think sharks will really benefit from this a lot, because it's a fish and it is searchable off a big shark. So yeah, quite nice there. So that is the kind of the main stuff I wanted to talk about with the different types of cards coming out. Now there is a last section that I'll be talking about, which is the other generic support. So let's talk about that quickly, and then we'll wrap up this video. All right, so these are the cards which I have not spoken about yet. So some of them I already have spoken about already, and I will leave timestamps for all of these. So for each part I've spoken about, I will leave timestamps so you can see exactly which cards you want to focus on for yourself, and you can go and choose which one you want to look at. But for the remaining cards, just to wrap up the video, we do have a new synchro, which is Shamisen Samisara Sorrow Cat, which is a zombie, level 3 tuna monster. So it's insane, right? So it's a tuna synchro, and during your main phase you can synchro summon using this card you control. So again, helps the zombie support, pretty cool, and it has a nice graveyard effect where you can target a synchro monster in your grave, return to extra deck, and if you special summon this card, but banish during the field, not a problem. You can recur it back with your other cards in your zombie support, which is insane. So zombie support is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, we also have this trap card, which is a Mimus Elephant. Specific as an effect monster, Beast Earth level 2, so Sprite, defense 2000, and it can declare and type an attribute on the field for a monster, and it becomes that type of attribute. So even itself until the end of this turn. So depending on what you need, it can be a water monster, it can be an earth monster. So I don't know, will it be useful in most decks? I don't know, we have to see. But it is a level 2, so I mean, you have to see how that works. Then we have Variant, the Circular Sorcerer. It's an insect tuner. When a plant or insect or plant monster is in your graveyard, or in either graveyard, you can summon itself from the hand. So Maxi, okay, Maxi's in the grave, free special summon, no problem with that. If this card is used as a synchro material, choose a non-tuner, okay, that's not bad. Dimensional Allotrope Ferris, psychic effect monster, cannot be destroyed by battle with the monster with the same type of attribute as this card. You can declare one monster type and attribute until this card becomes that attribute and type until the end of your opponent's turn. So it's for 2 turns, so it cannot be destroyed by battle. Will it be effective in the current meta? I don't know. It's kind of easy, right, to get rid of this because you can banish it, Exorcister, yeah. It could be worthwhile, but it can be destroyed by it can still be destroyed by card effect though. So yeah, interesting. Then we have a new synchro, Circle of the Fairies. You can normal summon an additional insect or plant monster. Alright, level 7. Okay. Monsters destroyed by battle involving when a monster is destroyed by battle involving an insect or plant monster and sent to the grave, target one of your destroyed monsters, inflict damage to your opponent equal to offense attack, then gain life points equal to the damage inflicted to your opponent. So one trade that comes to mind, I think, is Arrow Mage, because they love life point gaining. So if you like Arrow Mage, which I do also, it's a good support, but I think we just need more support. I think Arrow Mage as an archetype itself needs more support, but yeah, this is a good start, but okay. Then we have Spellbound. All face-up monsters your opponent currently controls cannot be attributed or used for material as Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link Summon. It's kind of interesting because it's on your opponent's turn, and now you have to decide when to use this card. So yeah, if it's one monster on field, okay, but if they have further plays after this, then kind of defeats the purpose of it. But okay, because if they have the hand, yeah, okay. It can be useful, but I don't think it's gonna be that great. I mean, people are not talking about this in OCD and TCG, so I don't know how it's gonna be impactful in Master Duel, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's not the best, but we'll take it from there. The Tilting Entrainment. So Tilting Entrainment, an Earth Machine Synchro, generic. If it's synchro summoned, special summon one level 4 or lower pendulum monster from your hand or face up from your extra deck. So it's generic pendulum support, but it looks like Super Heavy Samurai support. I'm just saying, because it's Earth Machine. So, but yeah, for pendulums, it's kind of insane. Enter the damage step when this card is in your when this card or your pendulum monster battles an opponent's monster, but the opponent's monster was not destroyed by battle, you can destroy that opponent's monster. Okay, so yeah, it's okay, but I mean, are there better synchros out there? Probably, but again, maybe not useful right now, but maybe when Super Heavy Samurai comes in, then yeah, this card might be insane. Alright. Then we also have the Abyss Dragon Sword Soul. Fire level 8 or Worm 3000. Must be silver summoned by a Worm monster's effect. If a monster is banished by card effect, you can special summon this card from the grave if it was not there when the monster was banished, or hand even if not. Okay. But banish it when it is the field. Okay. If this card is special summoned, you can target one card in the field zone and one monster your opponent controls or in the graveyard banish them. So this is a situational type of card. It requires certain things to be on the field or in the grave. So is it practical? I mean, it is a Sword Soul support technically, but I don't know if it's practical. And the fact that it says it needs a card in the field zone, and Sword Soul does not play any field spells, so I don't know how that's going to work. So it relies on the opponent. Yeah, this one is, again, it's good on paper, but very situational. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, then we also have, just to wrap up the video, we also have Plunder Patrol. Plunder Patrol is the only card that this was leaked, which is Patrol Subdued. It really works well with the strategy of Plunder Patrol, which basically relies on your opponent having a certain attribute, and it will summon a monster from the extra deck or your deck from matching that attribute. So this actually helps because it summons tokens on your field and your opponent, so you can actually customize what attribute you want to summon for your particular deck, how you build it. So because usually you have to rely on your opponent to have a certain attribute, but now you can actually force it to have the token you want on your side. So it's kind of insane. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for the Plunder Patrol. And I think that's the deck. Yeah, that's all the cards that will be coming out. Yeah, pretty interesting deck, I think, overall. Very interesting concepts. Could be, you know, better, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. I'm kind of excited for the structure deck coming up, and yeah, it can be quite insane, you know. So a lot of cards are in here that could potentially break the meta or just shake it up a little bit. But will it be the answer to Silverman? I don't know. Yeah, time will have to tell when it comes out, but until then, you know, this is the video. Again, I apologize if it's too long, so there will be timestamps to go back. So yeah, that's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon, and yeah, until next time, peace.